welcome, welcome, welcome to AmpliWave. I'm doing a wave as I do that. You just can't see my awesomeness. AmpliWave Learning Amplified. So I am so honored and excited to have Chuck Tuck here with us today. And he's going to get started in just a second, but I need to go through some announcements, people. All right, so first announcement is, who are you, woman? Hello. I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I'm your host for today. Hello. If you're watching us on YouTube, no, you don't get a certificate, but yes, you do get the knowledge. Right underneath the video, you can click and find the resource for today. So definitely go ahead and get that resource for today. All right, what is coming up next Saturday? Library schedules that work flexible are on the block. So you can definitely come and learn from our resident librarian, Tanya J. Haynes. And then we have finishing the year strong, ideas that boost student engagement with Rochelle Dinge Poth, and she is another kind of resident of, or I like to say, in the EA family. So we always have our presenters, if they want to come back and present with us time and time again, they can. Then we have Ready, Set, Record, getting started with video production projects in elementary school. So definitely come and check that out. And if you're like, well, Desiree, I'm not in elementary school, that's okay. You can always modify. So come and check it out. Then we have ISTE. Can you believe it's already ISTE? So in June, I am going to be at ISTE right now. These are my sessions. That it always grows the closer we get to ISTE. So for right now, this is what I'm presenting. But of course, this is going to change. Actually, this has already changed. This is an old flyer, but that's okay. I have more sessions already on there. And then, of course, I do booth sessions and all that good stuff. So definitely come check me out. I need to update this flyer. And then we have Library Collaboration, Leadership, and Mentoring, July 13th. Level Up, Career Moves in Librarianship, October 5th. And then we always have our self-paced classes where you can come and do test prep. You can do Google test prep, educational leadership test prep, all kinds of stuff. Or you can just get support time and meet with me about whatever you want to talk about. So always and forever, that will be sitting there. And then, of course, tell me what you want to learn. So tell me what webinars you want to see and what webinars you may want to present. We have first time presenters, we have international presenters. This is just if you want to share what you know with other teachers in a relaxed environment, come and check us out. Or if you're like, that's right, I do not want to present, but if you want to learn something, let me know that too. Oh, so if you're like, that was a lot, remember, everything can be found at edalex.net/events. So what we're going to do is get what you came here for and learn about that AmpliWave. Now you gotta do a wave with your body. You gotta do a body wave when you say that, y'all. So hopefully you're doing there. You see Chuck. You see him. All right. So we're going to do AmpliWave Learning Amplified.
Dr. Desiree, thank you very much. And folks, wow, what an amazing start, right? She's got a lot of things coming up for all of you. But today, like Dr. Desiree said, we're going to talk about sound and more specifically, AmpliWave. So what is AmpliWave? But before we get into that, let me ask you to think about this. What are some of your pain points in the classroom as an educator when you're talking? Does your voice get tired throughout the day? Do you constantly have to shout over loud noise and kids in the classroom? Keep that in mind. So AmpliWave, what is it? It is a classroom audio system, and it's a full classroom audio solution, really. So what I want to do is I want to start off by talking a little bit about sound and audio. What is it? How does it work? We're going to find out a little bit about what is signal to noise ratio and what is the inverse square law. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And I've got this broken down in a couple parts. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about the inverse square law and signal to noise ratio. Then we're going to go over to a PowerPoint presentation that's going to talk about AmpliWave and what it can do in the classroom, what it can do for you as educators, and how it actually can help students. So let's go ahead and do this. Fingers crossed that everything works out, right? Okay, so now you should see my screen. So you could probably see there's an educator, a teacher right here, and students, and I've got a bunch of these numbers here. So what I want to do is, again, talk about sound and how sound works. You know, when we see pictures and we hear people say, hello, hello, we're doing this like a megaphone and we're shouting and we're saying, oh, we're projecting the voice and it's going out and it's getting loud and louder and louder. So what does that look like? Well, you know, the megaphone is like this, and we're thinking, yes, it's getting louder as we're shouting out. But actually, that's not correct. It's quite the opposite. When we do this and shout, sure, it's got that shape of that megaphone, but the sound does not get louder, the further away it gets. In fact, we know that it is, again, quite the opposite to where it gets smaller and smaller. So what happens there? It's really like this, right? So it's going down. So what does it look like? The student in the back of the class is really not getting that much of that voice, your instructions. They're not hearing a lot. So how this works, this is this inverse square law. So it's very simple. It happens in light, sound, it's just the fall off. So the signal to noise ratio, I've got all these numbers up here, and what that means is, as an example, in the typical classroom, you're looking at about 50 decibels of sound, okay? So we've got our 50 right here. That's just the average classroom sound. In order for a student to listen, that voice or whatever it is that you want them to listen to, and I'm saying listen, not hear, needs to be about 15 decibels louder than the ambient sound in that classroom. And let me explain. The reason I say hear and listen are two different things. We tend to hear everything, right? Whether we say we do or not, we really do. We hear sounds all the time. We hear trucks, we hear cars, we hear dogs barking, all of that, but we're not really listening. It's just sound that we hear. So here's that difference. So with the signal to noise ratio, if you're talking and your voice is at 65 decibel, or we'll say 65 decibels at the first row of students, that's pretty good. But double that, so 5 feet, then if we go to 10 feet, it actually drops by 6 decibels. So now we're down to 59. Third row, 15 feet back, we're at 53. So 15 feet back. So what happens if we're 20 feet back? And most classrooms, I think, are about 30 feet deep, right? So now, already at 20 feet back, you're below that threshold of that ambient sound, that 50 decibels. They're at 47. So that really means right about in this area here is that cutoff. And what I mean by cutoff is now your projected voice has gotten down to the point where it's mixed in with all that ambient classroom sound. So now the kids, they can hear you, they can hear other things, but they're not listening. And what happens there is we've seen it in the Charlie Brown cartoons, right? Wah, 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 wah. Not to say that's exactly what it's going to sound like, but it just mixes in so they're not hearing everything, especially when it comes to the certain vowels and consonants and things like that. They need to hear it loud and clear. So that's why it's really important to understand this signal to noise and this inverse square law, because again, it's quite different from us doing this and thinking we're projecting outward. It's we're doing this and it's going in and it's getting lower and lower in sound towards the back of the classroom. So hopefully that makes sense. Just let me ask real quick, did it make any sense? And you can put in the chat or wherever and say, yes, it made sense. And do you have any questions on this part before we actually get into the PowerPoint presentation? It does not appear or seem like we need to, so everybody's on their toes today. Actually, there may be something here in the chat room. We got it. Yes, I
You are
got it.
definitely getting it.
Good deal. All right, so let me go ahead and jump right into that PowerPoint. And I know we tend not to like PowerPoints, but I promise you this is not going to be that bad, and it's going to be really informative. So some of you already may know the importance of audio, but let's get right into it and then talk about AmpliWave and what it really can do for the classroom. And while I'm getting everything prepared here, think about this. You know how important sound is? Have you ever been to a movie and the sound is just so quiet? You see this beautiful picture, just like teachers at the front of the classroom or walking around, but their voice just isn't projecting. That's how I think about it. I can't go to a movie and watch a movie with low volume. All right, so here is our PowerPoint, and we're going to go ahead and get from the very, very beginning of the slideshow. And it is AmpliWave is the name of the product. So it's AmpliWave, Learning Amplified. And this is really going to help you unlock the full potential of your classroom. So here's something that a graduate project student did back in 1992 from the University of Northern Iowa. And please let me read a little bit about this for you. It says, if a child can hear a sound on the detention level, but has trouble with the levels of discrimination or sensation and comprehension, it is understandable that speech and language would be slow to develop. So that means emotional and social problems could then evolve for this child as a lack of language development skills. So this is really all about being able to listen more than, like I was saying, hearing. So hearing impaired children have the same physical appearance as their friends who have normal hearing and also behave essentially as they do. And for this reason, not saying you, but as it said in the report, that the teacher is likely to interpret the intermittency of the performance of the student as they're not paying attention or they're not trying hard enough and things like that, but not really realizing it's the auditory, because 45% of the time students in the classroom, that's how they learn. And that's a big percentage in the classroom, is learning from hearing. So again, this is just really talking about the importance of understanding maybe that student who is not doing the greatest in school is not for the fact that they're goofing off or not paying attention. It could be that they're sitting towards the back of the classroom, they're not hearing what you're talking about or what you're trying to teach them, or maybe they do have some hearing problems. So again, it's all about that auditory. So here's what it's like in that classroom. You've got sound, that background sound. We want to be able to speak above that without having to shout, because we know nowadays that when we're shouting, kids are a little bit more sensitive about that. Not just kids, really anybody. If we're shouting, sometimes it just sounds like we're yelling at them. And what happens, especially towards kids, if you're yelling, we tend to tune that out. I don't want to hear you yelling at me, whatever it might be. Also, again, going back to being able to hear and understand, if you're shouting, sometimes you're not going to pronounce the words correctly, or it comes across where it's kind of sounds similar to other words. So we got to really keep that in mind. Now, what you're seeing here is the AmpliWave, the classroom audio system. And again, it is a complete system and it's very, very easy to use. But what does it include? It comes with 2 speakers, comes with the control box, which we're going to be going over pretty much in depth. So you're going to see what all it can do. Microphones, of course, you need microphones like this one right here that I'm using right now. There's a teacher mic and a student mic, and I'll talk a little bit about the differences on that in just a little bit. You also have an optional charging case if you want to use that. It is optional, which means it's an accessory, which means that's an additional cost on that. And for anybody out there that says, well, gee, how much does all this stuff cost? It's a great pricing. Education prices may differ, but MSRP, you're looking at $9.99 on that for the full kit. So that's a very good price. Now, here again, this is the control box, the control panel. And as it says, it is very, very easy to set up. Hopefully my pointer is there large enough for you to see. So I'm just going to start from the left and move to the right. And once again, please feel free if at any point in time that you have a question, go ahead and put that in the chat. And I believe Dr. Desiree is kind of keeping an eye on that, and she can stop me and I can answer whatever questions you might have. So with the left, this is just the power button right here. So of course, press and hold that for a second. It'll turn right on. This right here is a very, very important thing. That is the USB dongle that needs to be plugged in order for this to be wireless. Without that, you're not going to be wireless. And then next over here, you see what says mute and PC. Now you could connect this to your PC, which means that you're going to be able to funnel that sound that's coming from the computer into the AmpliWave control box and be projected out through the AmpliWave speakers. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, think about it this way. What if you already have some pre-made lesson plans on video, or maybe you're using YouTube? Maybe you're playing back one of Dr. Desiree's webinars, but you also want to be able to narrate over top of it. You can do all of this with the AmpliWave, meaning that I can narrate over top of existing audio or existing video, so they can have their sound going and I could talk along with it, or I can, simply pause it and talk over that, or however I want to do it. But the other thing too is we all know that the speakers on our laptops, which many of us use, it's not that good. We could turn it up, it crackles, it doesn't sound great. So what better way to play back all that stuff? Funnel it right through AmpliWave, and now everything on your computer that you're playing can be heard through the speakers. So you're going to come to realize that this is pretty important about the sound. So we'll move on to the next one here. ALD. Anybody know what that stands for? Assisted learning device, or some refer to as assisted listening device. Again, this goes back to possibly students in the classroom who may have a hearing impairment, or they may be wearing hearing aids or some sort of over-the-ear assistance, hearing assistance devices. So what you do here is you see that there is a little output jack there. So this could plug into an existing ALD device in the classroom. And then you're able to control the volume from the teacher mic through that. And now the students are going to hear exactly the level that they need. And then you can actually use this larger button at the end for the master volume for the speakers in the classroom. So now everybody's going to get equal sound, and that becomes an equal playing field. You're going to hear me talk about that in just a little bit. So hopefully that made sense to you, because once again, the importance of this sound and audio is for everybody to hear the sound equally. So equally clear and loud enough so we can listen. Microphone input. Some of you already have microphones, or you may want to have an additional microphone, whether it be a handheld one or another wireless microphone. You can plug that right into where it says mic in. Again, right up here is the volume knob. You're going to find out with all this, I can, again, control the volume from every one of these devices that's connected into the box and individually control that volume. So I could level out all that sound, and I'm going to say it again, even sound, level sound for everyone is very, very important. And I already talked about the big dot knob at the end, and that is your master volume knob. Now you're going to see some other buttons up at the top. Reset, that just resets everything back to like a default volume. You have a mute button, and you also have your loudness button as well from up top. So it's in case we have things blocked in the front. All right, so here it is. This is what's important. This is what connects us. That's this right here. And this is the teacher microphone. Now, the difference again between the teacher microphone and the student microphone is you see right here, there's this orange button. That is an SOS, or silent call button, that the teacher can press, and it'll notify whoever is on the other end watching or listening to the software that you have to have connected to this. And that is our device management software. It's a free download, but both the student, or excuse me, both the teacher computer and the IT or the main office have to have that software connected. and then it needs to be connected to your network. We're going to go to the back and show that in just a bit. But that button allows you to press it, hold it for a few seconds here, and then it'll send that signal. And then that'll notify the office, oh, it's room 37, there's something going on. So now they could go to that classroom and just make sure everything's okay. Now, it does not call out or dial out to first responders or anything like that. So just in case anybody was wondering about that. Now, how do we pair our microphones to the control panel? Remember, I talked about this as our USB dongle, and this is what allows you to connect to your microphone wirelessly. So your button right here is just the power button. Press and hold that for about 3 seconds. And then up the top here, there's going to be a couple of different lights. So you're going to have a green light, and then once it pairs, there's a second light that'll turn blue. And right here, like the Wi-Fi signal, it'll turn blue also, and it tells you that you're connected. Now you can easily mute it by pressing and then pressing it again, and it'll unmute itself and come right back. This mute right here is really mute the sound that's coming from the PC. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to the back. And there's that Ethernet. So again, this is not something that you have to have or need to have connected. This box works as a standalone, but this is just in case you want to connect it to your network. And again, if you want to use that SOS button, it also will allow IT department to go in there and update the firmware and things like that from their office. So that could be something important, but it really is not necessary. Next to it, we have a USB-A. Now, some have gotten confused and plugged this into the computer, so that's not what this is for. So this, once again, is another input port for audio. You see right above it, it says UAC, and that stands for Universal Audio Compliance. So as an example, this will accept anything that is UAC. As an example, Zoom and Teams and Meets and all that, they need to have something that's UAC, Universal Audio Compliant, and UVC, Universal Video Compliant, in order to be able to receive that signal. So that means I could plug in a USB microphone. Or if you have a touch panel in the classroom or some sort of monitor and you have USB out that'll carry the audio, now you can plug that into the back of this, and you can have audio from your television running through here as well. There's also another option for an audio in. If you have CD players, DVD players, or whatever it might be, and you have an audio output, that goes right in here to the line in. And again, that will allow you to play that audio through the AmpliWave system. And I keep on saying you could control each one of the volume separately. Once again, for your audio from the UAC and the audio from your line in. And again, once again, this is now my teacher mic. I can control it so I can be louder than that sound. And remember, we talked about you need to be about 15 decibels louder than whatever it is that is playing or that's in the background in order for students to listen. They can hear, but you want them to listen. Now, this right here is the mute. So this is the page mute. So again, if you have a public service announcement, speakers and everything in the classroom, and a public service announcement comes on, there's that beep, and then if it's loud enough of the tone, it'll automatically mute everything on this box. So you can hear the announcement being made from the office or wherever it's coming from. So that's cool that it has this built right into the box as well. We have one more right here, the line out. So again, if you have an existing amplifier or other speaker systems and things like that, this could go right out to that. And right here, it's just a simple wire connection. So if you have our speakers all set up and ready to go, just plug in the wires. Perhaps you have other speakers, so you don't want to use our speakers. Maybe you want them to be smaller or larger. Very, very easy connection. And then just the DC input. Power. One thing on this, oftentimes we see these power connections and they all look the same. And we're like, oh, it must be like a 12 volt or 9 volt or something. Just plug it in because it fits. Be careful, not only for this product, but really any product that you have out there that's electronic. Make sure it's the correct voltage because this one is 19 and many of them out there are either 12 or 9, but they all look the same and they can all fit. So whether it's this or something else, just make sure you're plugging in the right power supply. So let's really get into why is it important. Now, AmpliWave is a powerful tool that can be used in real-time narrations. And I kind of mentioned that because you might already have something that's pre-made that you're going to play back the audio lesson plan, but you want to be able to interact with it. We want this to be a full immersive experience, not only for the students, but for you, the educator. And when you're able to do this, you really immerse the entire classroom. So again, you have the choice of pausing that video or you have the choice of narrating along with it. So that's your option. Now, again, YouTube, I mentioned that because a lot of us tend to use YouTube where there's a lot of good information on YouTube, or you may have your pre-existing stuff that you have already created. So music is another thing with this. I remember back in the day when I was in school, maybe some of you were back then, that we had music lessons and we did sing-alongs. And sometimes if you're in choir or chorus, you had microphones. But I had one class who have been testing this out and the students were really excited. They said that they wanted to do a wrap off, meaning that they split the class in half and they had just a beat playing from the laptop, just a simple beat going. And then the students took the student mic and then they rapped along with it and they passed it around amongst each other. Then the other side did it. So apparently they had a really good time. So I think they're going to do it again. And hopefully I get to be there to participate in that. But here's another thing that's really important is English as a second language. So second language learners, it's really important for everyone, but really important for the second language students that they hear everything pronounced correctly. Once again, sometimes when we tend to shout, yell, or just try to be heard, it may come across as sounding different. There can be different words or similar words that sound very, very close, or the vowels and consonants may run into each other. We want to be able to have the students hear those clearly in order to understand and pick up on what it is that we as educators are saying. So the AmpliWave really empowers a teacher by managing the sound and letting you use your voice to fill a classroom that's up to 1,500 square feet without your voice getting tired. Because if your voice gets tired, it sounds like your enthusiasm kind of goes down. And if you're kind of going down, you feel a little tired, what happens to the classroom? Their spirit and their energy, it might go with you. It might kind of go down, or they may just get louder because they're saying, teacher's getting a little bit tired. Time for us to really go crazy. So it really allows you to project your voice. The other thing with this, it is very, very simple. It's plug and play. Literally, just plug in the power. Just take this, remember, press and hold that button for a few seconds. Light will turn blue on the front, and you're paired, and you're good to go. And that is it. We had a first-time teacher that just plugged it in without any instructions. They did not read instructions. He was pushing buttons and he just kind of figured it out, saw the different color lights and pressed and held it. And he said, hey, that was easy. So it's very, very simple, very plug and play. The other thing too is we want to make sure that there's longevity, that we don't want this to run out in the middle of your class, while you're talking, while you're giving a lecture. So it does have an 8 to 10 hour talk time on this. But if for some reason you run out because you forgot to put it on the charger and it runs out, you can actually plug this in via USB. There's a USB connection right here on the side and charge it up about 10 or 15 minutes and it'll give you about 1 hour. So that's really quick and really good too. The other thing is you notice I am using this currently. So this works out great for this hybrid or, high flex learning. Because a lot of us, we don't we don't just sit here behind a desk. We tend to walk around the classroom. So if you're doing content creation that you want to save, but you want to walk around the classroom, this gives you that freedom of doing that. This gives you the freedom of not holding a microphone. Also, this does have a lanyard, so if you want to hang it lower, it's great, but I like to have it plugged in right here, just clip to my collar or right in that area. But also, say you're doing a live presentation, or better yet, what about if you have a special presenter in the classroom? That presenter is only going to be there once. What a perfect way for that presenter to use this. Now you can control the volume in the classroom, but you can also control the volume going out to the students who are at a distance. And that's not to say that they're students who are sick and stay at home. This is to say from cross campus. You're just like what we're doing right now on a Zoom call or a Teams or a Meet or something like that. So that is powerful. Also, because of the fact that the laptop or computer is connected to your AmpliWave device, students on the other end, they can talk and ask a question, and it's going to be played through the speaker, so it's loud enough for everyone to hear. And that again is bringing that environment. We are immersing ourselves into that environment. They're talking, and if you have it connected to Zoom and your monitor, you can see their classroom, they can see you, they can see the special guest speaker. Everyone can hear and see each other. So that is huge. And again, I come back to often talking about the ability to mix all your different audio sources, which makes it important because we want to be able to level out that sound. I don't want my audio too loud for my laptop being played back here because I want to be able to talk loud enough so students can hear me narrating over top of that. Okay. Now, it does help improve students' focus. Again, we talked about hearing and we talked about listening, and the difference is loud and clear, pun intended on that one. That again, we know it where if we're in a crowded room and we're trying to have a conversation with somebody and there's all that background noise and your friend or your colleague or somebody is talking to you, you hear them, but you can't listen. You're not picking it up because it's getting drowned out or it's the equal volume of all that sound. And what do? We lean in, right? But if they had a megaphone or an AmpliWave connected, it's loud enough. And then we can hear what they're saying. I kind of liken that to, remember the thing that we used to do long ago where you line up 5 or 10 students and you tell them one thing at one, and by the time it got to the end, it was something totally different. That is how that audio works. And that's how that inverse square law works. I may be saying something here and the students at the front row understand what I'm saying. But by the time it gets back to the back row, they picked up on part of it, but maybe not all. And oftentimes students may be, embarrassed to ask, what did you say? So keep all that in mind. Now, there have been a number of different studies done about this as far as students' ability to comprehend, retain, and to learn better. So there was a study done in 1977 by the U.S. Department of Education. They funded a study called Mainstream Amplification Resource Room Study, MARS project. So this was really to find out, are students with hearing impairment or slight hearing impairment at a disadvantage in I'm going to say just a regular or normal classroom. And yes, they are. And yes, they were. And did audio enhancement help? Yes, but what they found out, as it says right here, all students had a significant gain in their learning and success. So that's how important audio is. And that's why I go back to talking about sound, movies, and things like that. We enjoy hearing good audio, and it is just as important as the visual. So once again, reduces stress for teacher voices. A number of different studies. Again, there have been a lot of studies done with this as far as does it really help? So Sounds of Self-Esteem study, it said that there's a 63% increase in students knowledge retention and their ability to learn, and parents notice that their child was doing better. So that's huge. So right here, what makes audio so potent in education? Again, it says that the study's theory points to the enveloping power of the human voice. The educational podcast, that's huge right now. Audiobooks and the audioscapes act as a cocoon of sound. We like sound. We want to hear good sound. We've listened to music all the time. We like good sound. Kids now, sound, sound, sound. Not just that visual, but audio is just as important. And I've talked about this before, but I didn't call it about the resonance of learning. So it's just how words, how they sound, how we pronounce them, which is very, very important. Again, especially for English as a second language learners and for those younger kids that are just learning, developing their minds, their brains. We want to make sure that they hear everything correctly, not just now, like me, just kind of fumbled on my words, but we want to make sure that we speak clear and loud and clear. We hear that term a lot. Loud and clear, please. So that's it on the PowerPoint presentation. I know this is pretty fast. Let's quickly ask, any questions or any doubts about audio or any scenarios that you may have questions about, will this work in? And Dr. Desiree, do you think it'll be easier for folks to unmute and talk so I can hear them?
Absolutely. They can unmute or throw it in the chat.
I want you folks to speak up. Let me know how it was. Do you believe audio is important? Let me ask you that. Is audio important? And if you're too shy to talk up, go ahead and put in the comments here. And here, audio and visual, which means I need to put my glasses on because this screen is tiny.
Lindley says, I am a teacher who rolls a cart into the rooms to teach Christian studies. Could that work? I might have missed the mobile part.
Yes. Now, of course, the mobile cart and the mobile part, the only thing that might be of difficulty to you is a speaker. However, that has been done before, but it's your option. So one of the classrooms that we have using this, they permanently have the speaker. Actually, I don't know where they have it mounted, or they're not mounted. They are on a desk. So I'll clarify that. They just have them placed someplace, but they have the wires running, and they have them tucked underneath the flooring corner stuff. And they just wheel in the cart with a document camera and the little AmpliWave box. And it's simple enough. They just plug it in every time, and then that's it. So it'll work that way. Or if you want, if your cart allows you to place the speakers on the bottom someplace or up along the side, yeah, definitely. And actually, that's a great idea to do it that way. So now that could go to your library or to your classroom, wherever you want to go. And all you need to do is plug it in. And this, just press and hold, and it pairs up and you're ready to go. That was a good question. Thanks.
That was a great question. And I know, in my humble opinion, that sound is everything for our students. We're dealing with the TikTok generation. They want sound, they want quick, that kind of thing. So I think it's very important to meet them where they are.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want you to imagine yourself sitting in a classroom, and if you're trying to listen to someone, or if you go to a seminar, we've often done that, right? We've gone to a seminar and we're stuck in the back. We can hear them, but sometimes, even if they're using the microphone, because it's a much larger auditorium, sometimes it's difficult to hear or difficult to listen. We hear, but it's so hard to understand what they're saying. So that's the same thing. Again, this has no age barrier. Really, it does not.
Lindley
It's
says, I like the loading them on the cart idea.
yeah, that is fantastic. So I'm glad that somebody asked that. So uh let me ask here, does anybody know of an educator that has an audio system in their classroom or have experience using one of these? Or how long does it take before your voice gets tired? Don't be shy. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had anybody here have had that situation where they're trying to talk over all the noise and somebody really just can't hear, and somebody has actually said, one of the students said, I can't hear you? Has that ever happened to you?
So we have some of the questions being answered.
Mhm.
Shirley says, I think some of our special services classrooms do have sound systems. Bridget says, I have seen it in a class and it was amazing.
Yes, it it is. Sound is amazing.
And Shirley says, I do.
I want to say thank you, everybody, really for participating in this. This is what this is all about. This is about understanding and learning from each other, our experiences. So thank you on that. Let me ask you this too. Is there anything that you want to um, perhaps see in an audio system and in the classroom? Maybe you might say, Chuck, what about, you know, can I hook up 20 different microphones, or can I connect a mixer board and do this in a choir class? Anything like that?
Lingley says, I think it would be better than using couch drops because, cough drops, because my throat hurts on the way home every day. Kids so loud. Hashtag kids so loud.
You are absolutely right. I mean, I don't think I could be an educator and talk for 6, 7, 8 hours out of the day, let alone just in my normal voice like this, rather than having to speak up a little bit louder. And it does fatigue you, I think, right? It really does.
Bridget says, I'm currently an in-class support teacher and think this would help my students here.
Yes. I also have he's a friend, and he is an educator. He's been teaching for 34 years. He works with special needs kids. That's his main area. And he said immediately the kids went crazy over this, that they loved it. They wanted to play with it. They wanted to use it. So again, it's not only a benefit for the teacher, it is a benefit for the students, but it also gets them excited again about stuff. I think we remember with document cameras when we first got those and we put something underneath and the kids are like, wow, same thing with the audio. It's like, wow, I can hear you. So any wishes or dreams again for this product that maybe it's lacking? I talked about all these connections and things like that. Maybe you're a music teacher. Do you have any questions or comments on what it can do there, or what you may want to see built into this? No, I think we're probably, let me put my glasses on. What are we doing for time? Oh,
We are
uh,
great on time. I think people are still
yeah.
typing. And remember, if you want to unmute yourself, please do.
Yes, I want to hear your voices, please, because I have it coming through the AmpliWave system. So I want to really hear what it sounds like with all of you talking. Somebody, please. Shirley, how about you? Oh, I'm picking on people now, aren't I?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get unmuted.
Hi, Shirley.
Hello.
So,
I teach computer classes, and my class is rather big, and it's usually pretty full. So of course, I do have a lot of students when they're doing group work, especially talking. And I like someone else just said, I think it might have been Desiree, that you're talking, and by the time you get in the car, you need a peppermint or a throat lozenge because your voice is just literally just tired. And
Yes.
so this, I think, is going to be a great instrument for me to be able to use, not only just for me, but even for them to be able to hear me better. But even when they're responding, I do have some who speak very lightly. And I don't care how many times I say, could you say it a little louder? I can't hear you. Could you still get a little louder? It's like it's never loud enough. So this, I think, is going to work perfectly for me.
Thank you, Shirley. Actually, you gave a perfect scenario. So your computer science, computer class, and again, a lot of us walk around when we're teaching, when we're conducting a lecture or whatever it is. But when we're doing that and we're talking, where's that voice? Well, that voice is going with you, right? So
Right.
now it's all of a sudden, hey, I used to be able, I could hear the teacher, but now I can't hear the teacher. And we all know that when we turn our backs, the sound is now going the opposite direction. So if you're using a dry erase board or if you're using an interactive flat panel and you turn your back and you start working and you're still talking to give instruction, that volume drops. I mean, even the kids in the first and second row will have a hard time hearing you. So you're doing this, right? And then pretty soon you got a sore neck, you got a sore throat. Again, that's why this is really important and great to have. You can walk anywhere you want. That volume is being projected constantly and consistently at all times.
Love it.
Emily, I have this feeling that you have something you want to say. That could either be a yes or no.
Actually, Bridget is unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, Bridget,
Oh, yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can. Loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Well, the thing is, I guess, is coming from a classroom teacher to the special ed side. It is, I did not realize how much we think the kids are listening. But even when I'm like now doing in-class support with the students, I'm like, what did the teacher say again, to myself? Because I
Yes.
couldn't hear them, and the kids, when they're asking those questions. When I was a classroom teacher, you would think the kids are just not paying attention, but they are looking at the teacher. They're paying attention, but like you said, when you turn your back and you do different things, the sound starts, even if the kids are not doing much of anything, it's like you're not projecting as much as you think. So I really, I saw this when I was student teaching a long years ago, I think when it first came out. And I really like the device, but it's something that I think most teachers need to see, that they're thinking that the kids are not paying attention, but they really are. It's just your voice is not as loud as you think it is,
Right.
when you're talking in the classroom. So this is amazing, and I really appreciate this PD today.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And yes, Bridget, you're absolutely right. We talked about that earlier, where it's not our fault as educators that we're thinking, oh, they're not paying attention or whatever it is. It's really that they're not, they're trying to listen, they hear you, but they're just not able to really listen. So those students who we thought were poor students in the classroom, perhaps it's just that they are not hearing things clearly. So you're absolutely right on that, Bridget. Uh, a lot of very good comments. So thank you again on that. And I'm glad. It seems like you folks really understand and realize the importance of audio. And I'm just going to say it again with me. I love music. I love movies, but I want to go to a concert and I want to hear things. I want to go to the movies. I want to hear things. Not only do I want that visual, but because again, 45% of the kids in the classroom, they're learning 45% of the time through audio. So that's big. I think I'm really about done on this. And I thank everybody for your Saturday, your time. So thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for not only coming and talking about the importance of sound and meeting students where they are, but also giving us a way to support our students using sound. Because it is important. And one of the things I put in the chat earlier was, even educational leaders doing meetings, even presenters at, comp, all of this is important because, you know, even when they give you mics sometimes at workshops and things like that, people are like, oh, I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use my teacher voice. And that's not okay, because your teacher voice doesn't carry as much as you think it does. And if someone's hard of hearing, they're not hearing you. And if they're not hearing you, they're not going to engage with you. And same thing with our students. So thank you very, very, very much for doing this presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.